Welcome everyone. Welcome to day 44. No, sorry, day 4 of Eurovision rehearsals. And today was the chance for the second half of the first rehearsal of the second semi-final. I think that's right. Unfortunately, Hass can't be with us this evening for he's got a work meeting, but we have Adrian and Danny as ever, and delighted to be joined tonight by Monty Moncrieff, who's been blogging away furiously for On Europe, isn't it?
Yes, on europe.co.uk, we're blogging all of the rehearsals. Phil, who runs the site, has been doing that for well over 20 years now. I think one of the first rehearsal blogs. So it's very kind enough to let me, to indulge me and let me have my musings as well.
So I think when we wrapped up yesterday, we were slightly, not exactly pessimistic, but we thought, well, the second half of the second semi-finals not got perhaps some of the standout songs as the first half had, but actually it's been a pretty decent day of rehearsals. There's been some decent songs. Adrian, if I start with you, what's been your what was your standout? What have been your hits?
I was just about to say that I thought today was one of the weakest days, but let's say
it's all relative.
A day with the weaker entries, let's say it like that. I think 3 stood out to me, in part because several of the songs today, I just don't like them. But Albania, I think, was good. Switzerland was okay, but I didn't hear it. I only saw it because somebody was late for a meeting and I had to speak at my meeting. And Denmark was good today.
So one I'm intrigued to know about, because I think I'd gone for lunch or it was a meeting or something, then came back and looked in the online press sidebar and everyone was raving about Portugal. What happened there? What did I miss? What's everyone missed with Portugal?
So Portugal, I think, is one of these songs that it's a nice song. I know Denise really likes this one, so she might get her to talk about this in a second. But Portugal, I think it was a really good performance, actually. It wasn't that different from the national final. It was just maybe tarted up a little bit and it looked really quite slick, and they've got some nice staging bits where there's an imagery of a woman that's walking along the street, because the song is about a prostitute, apparently. I don't know if it's Bulgaria or in Amsterdam, I'm not 100% sure, but I never knew that before, so it kind of brought a different side of the song to me. It just kind of stood out a little bit and it looked really professional and quite slick. I'm not convinced though, because I still think that the televoters are not going to go for it in droves. I think it's a song that the juries will get, but maybe not the televoters. And I think that, but we will see. I'm not convinced yet myself. What do you think, Monty?
I started the day blogging a little preview and I said, I think we're going to have some surprises today. But I put in the blog, I bet you a tenner it doesn't come from Portugal though. And I had to eat my words. Neil's just put in the chat, has the song got any better? No, the song itself hasn't got any better, but the presentation has. There was something about this that worked. It wasn't enormously different from the Portuguese final in the fact that it's a band setup, but they have a projection on the back of an orchestra in silhouette, and it just gives that impression there's a little bit more going on stage. What I did like is that he uses the satellite stage, and as he comes to it, the LED wall that comes down has a projection of the woman walking along, and he walks along the path, the catwalk, in a way that mirrors that action on the screen. And I just thought it was very effective. And then he sort of fiddles around with his guitar when he gets there. Yeah, the song itself I don't get, but I was very pleasantly surprised by the presentation of it. I have to give credit where it's due.
Any chance of qualifying?
Yeah, I think they've done enough to put themselves in contention of qualifying. And I think that this is a fairly open semi-final. It's quite difficult because the latter songs tend to do well in a running order, but yet the earlier songs that we had yesterday are probably the stronger in this semi-final. So it's quite difficult. I think we might see some of those songs from the second half coming through by virtue of where they are in the running order and the recency that they have in people's minds.
Yeah, and some of the ones in the first half might end up cancelling each other out, and you get one from the second half going through. The one that stood out for me was Albania, which I'd kind of, it sort of passed me by as an okay song. It was very kind of Albania doing what Albania they've done for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And to a certain extent, yes, that's true. That is what they're doing. They are just doing a woman with a big song giving a good performance. But her vocals, I thought, were one of the best I've heard over the last few days. And so grateful. No neon pink and blue backing, no 4 dancers, just her on stage, dramatic lighting, belting the pants off it. Really good performance. What else think of that?
I said in the blog that it's a cross between Iveta Munchkayan from Armenia and Eleni Ferreira. Kind of a bit of both. It's got the strutting that Eleni has, and it's got the kind of dramatic movements. And she does the classic bit where she turns around and then turns her head round, so she's singing to the camera that way. Lots of hair flicking. She's wearing a lovely silver, I thought, like an ice skating type dress. It looks really good and she looks stunning, and the vocals are great. And I think, yeah, she's got a good chance of qualifying. It's the kind of song that I think juries are going to like. And it's the only BBB, which I call a Big Balkan Ballad, in the whole selection this year. So I think it has definitely got a good chance of qualifying. So we'll wait and see.
Adrian, any disappointment? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Monty.
I was going to say I wanted Dancing Boys. I was hopeful that there would be Dancing Boys.
We all want Dancing Boys.
And I thought the fact that she's inside and not outside in Tirana in December, might increase the chances of those Dancing Boys being shirtless. But within 10 seconds, it was so obvious she didn't need anything but her on the stage. Absolutely commanding. Lots of hair flicking. Danny mentioned Evita Kuchin and Eleni Ferreira, and that's exactly what I thought. It is like a bit of a cross between the two. There's a Fuego moment, that shot in Fuego where there's sort of red smoke going on in the background and she's in silhouette. That's repeated. So I think there's a bit of a little a nod to fandom in there, which I thought was really, really nice. Absolutely brilliant. You're right about the vocals. She's one of the best vocalists in this whole show, and just such a joy to hear that today.
I'm just glad she wasn't wearing that dress at the national final in Tirana in December.
No, she would have.
Adrian, any other standouts for you?
I'm going to say Denmark was a bit of a standout because it's a fun song, and admittedly, it is bringing the colors to jour, or no, colors to année. The blue and neon pink is there, but in this song, which is a song that is super 80s, blue and neon pink completely suits it, and the staging is more or less the same as it sort of was for Melody Grand Prix, but they seem to be having good fun, lots of good energy, and as it's the last song, I think it will stand a good chance of qualifying. The singer is wearing a jacket which does seem to fit him now, which is a good sign. The one in Copenhagen was just a little bit too tight. And I do agree with you, Monty, as you wrote in your blog, that it does look a bit grubby, that vest of his. Yeah, he could get a bit of Purcell on there and get it, or a bit of Daz maybe.
Exactly. I thought it's off-white, and with the way that the rest of the material of the jacket and the clothes, he does look a little bit unwashed.
Yeah, I thought it looks like he hasn't washed for a week or something. It's just that kind of. Maybe that's the end thing in Denmark just now, I don't know. Maybe
it's like his lucky t-shirt, and if he washes it, then it would be kind of like it'll wash the luck away.
Yeah, I'm not convinced about the song. It's okay, but I do think that it's a kind of song that appeals to a certain demographic. I'm not going to mention which demographic that might be.
What would that be, Danny? What would that be?
Slightly, watch your words very carefully here.
Slightly more. I'm not going to say because it's no. Okay, slightly more
middle-aged gay men.
We know what you mean.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's fun, but yeah, it's on the borderline for me. I'm not convinced. I think it has got a great chance because of where it is in the running order. But I think with the song before it being Switzerland, I think it might just get forgotten.
See, I think that actually helps its chances, because I think having the kind of dark, dramatic Swiss song, and we'll talk about Gijon in a moment, I think Denmark coming after that is it's a great song to round off that semi-final with. It's a riot of colour. Yes, it's very 80s, but that kind of 80s pastiche is in at the moment. If you like that style, what are you going to do? You're going to vote for Denmark, or are you going to vote for Poland? And based on yesterday, I think Denmark's going to hoover up that bit of vote. And it's got movement. They jump about on stage. He can actually sing. Yeah, I thought he actually sang better than he did at the Melody Grand Prix. Backing vocals are quite good as well. The clapping looks good. It's just the ideal one to end a semi-final.
I thought that, I mean, I'm not particularly struck on the song, I have to say, but the running order does help. Sometimes I think that being last in the running order is a little too late. I think unless you grab the attention right at the start of your song, there's the risk that everybody's going to turn to start totting up their marks and you lose the attention. But actually, it was a bit of a breath of fresh air when this came on, because the rest of the day had been, you know, we'd had slow plodders, we'd had you know, gentle ballads. We've had a really different range of songs, like from Finland and Switzerland, and then Latvia in the mix. So this was the only pop song in this half. We had 6 or 7 pop songs yesterday, and this is the only one in this half. So it did really stand out. I thought, though, that it needed a bit of tightening up, considering they more or less transplanted it from the Danish final. I thought there was a little bit where they were not quite getting the cues. It was just slightly off the beat, and he's left himself with a bit of a distance to run. He has to really leg it when he decides to go onto the satellite stage, and he has to really leg it back, and there's not quite enough beats in the gap to allow him to get there. So I think he looked a little flustered and a little clammy, really, I thought. So yeah, hopefully they can iron that out. I mean, you know, we say it all the time, but this is what rehearsals are for: getting used to the stage, getting used to the arena, getting used to where everything is, because all of that is different from, you know, doing it even in a rehearsal room.
I'm slightly terrified on his behalf. Is he going to take a tumble when he jumps onto the satellite stage?
Yeah.
So that's clammy and grubby, and it's a surefire qualifier.
All the Danish people watching this on YouTube, we love your song, really.
Yeah, I just think with the fact that it's a very Northern European type song, I'm just not convinced that it's got enough of a wide appeal from the rest of Europe to qualify. But I might be eating my words next Thursday, so we shall wait and see.
What about Switzerland? Because that was obviously the one on before it, the big favourite, my second favourite behind Denmark. I loved it. I thought it was great. I was slightly disappointed by his performance, if I'm being honest. I thought there was too much of the kind of the waving around just didn't quite feel that it fitted with the song. It was like fab lighting. You know, he looks good, he sings well. That kind of light show towards the end is you know, is really incredible. But the kind of the odd movements he was doing, Danny, I think you said it was a bit Eric Sader. I just thought that was a little bit distracting from the performance. It didn't.
I think that for this one, for me, I think that at least what they've done is they haven't copied Arcade, because obviously everyone was talking about it being a copy of Arcade without the type of, you know, ballad and motive song. So he's not sitting behind a piano, he's moving around. It reminds me a bit of Eric Sader cross with Christian Kostov, Beautiful Mess. It's kind of got that same kind of vibe. I mean, he's a fantastic singer and his vocals were flawless. I do kind of think that there's a lot going on in performance, so it might be tightened up a bit by the time it comes to the second rehearsals. For me at the moment, it didn't scream winner. But, you know, as I said, early days yet. A lot of people online, it seemed to be a big, massive favourite among those that watched it. So, although it hasn't gone up in the odds yet, that's the one thing I do. I always check the odds for the songs after they go. And Bulgaria has gone up in the odds quite a little bit, but Switzerland has kind of stayed static. So we shall wait and see.
It came up for me today. I'm one of the ones who I was a little bit flabbergasted as to why this was doing so well in the betting. I just couldn't really connect to it that much. And there's still elements of it that I don't really like. I think it's sung in slightly too high a register. I mean, that's unfortunate if that is good John or Goujon or however you pronounce it. If that is his register, then, you know, that's how he has to sing. But it feels as though it's just trying to sing a few tones too high. I would sort of try to transpose it down a little bit and contain the song a bit more. But I thought the staging really works, actually. I thought they might put him on the piano. He's sort of atop some blocks that look like sort of concrete blocks in a sort of, you know, structure, and they come apart at one point when the song builds to its sort of crescendo. And I think they've done a really good job of selling that moment. They've got lights flashing on from the back. It's quite frenzied, and it really ups the energy and the drama at that point in the song. So this was a pleasant surprise for me in a day when I thought we would get surprises, and we did get surprises. This was one of the pleasant surprises to me, and for the first time, I could see this as a genuine contender. I haven't up until now, but I could based on today's performance.
Yeah, I still think it's got winning potential. I think it's different enough and dramatic enough to stand out. And some people are saying earlier, oh, is it a copy of Arcade? It's not. And to be honest, if you're again the casual viewer sitting down on the Saturday night in a couple of weeks' time, you're not really going to think, oh, it's influenced by the song that won 2 years ago. Most people have probably forgotten what that song was. So I do think it's good enough to win on its own
maybe
merits.
not, because Arcade is a bigger hit now than it was 2 years ago.
True.
Yeah,
because
that's
of
true.
TikTok. So, and I think people are, for the most part, quite cynical in a way, and they're like, oh, that's like Fuego from 2 years ago. Oh, that's like this. Or they see something and they go, oh, they're trying to be Dua Lipa, or oh, they're trying to be whoever is popular in the charts. And, I think that can sometimes maybe work against people too. So you never know.
And maybe that's a bit like what we were saying, was it yesterday, about how the commentary influences kind of what people's view as a song, and commentators may say, oh, and it bears more than a passing resemblance to Arcade or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's enough of an issue to kind of swing how well it's going to do. That's kind of what I'm saying. I think people may see similarities, some people may not, but I think it's strong enough to kind of stand in its own right. What do we think about Latvia?
See, I have a soft spot for Samantha because I think she's an amazing woman. She's got this force of nature that I think is just fantastic, and she has got an amazing voice. She looks fantastic, but I think the problem with me is it's a bit just too full on. It's almost like it's a slap in the face. She's wearing a lovely jade outfit, and she's got the 3 backing singers that are wearing the visors, which are obviously taken from last year's performance. But apart from that, not much else really happened. She kind of does the whole kind of bit when she's got the crown in her head, but the song is just a bit. It's kind of like a bit. I don't know how to describe the song. It is very full on, and I just think it's just not going to appeal to enough people to qualify. I think it's just too eclectic and just too different. But kudos for trying something different and sticking to her own true beliefs.
I won't be surprised if we see more and see different, because she, in her meet and greet today, she basically said she's going to do something different every time, which the directors might not like very much, but the queen of the night is here. So she may end up wearing an actual crown. She went to her meet and greet wearing a crown, but she didn't have it on stage today. So I somehow suspect she might end up wearing Senate's big crown thing. You never know. So I think there'll be more to come from Samantha. But I do kind of know where you're coming from. I think this is probably one of the ones that would struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
I think for me, the description of the song is a big, noisy mess, but in a glorious way. I absolutely love the ridiculousness of the song. I was a bit disappointed, a bit like when Moldova turned up yesterday without her dancing ice creams. I was a bit disappointed that I felt somebody had a word with Samantha Tina and said, tone it down a bit, love. And she'd agreed, and I couldn't quite understand why she'd agreed. I wanted a little bit more crazy on stage. I love the dancer, the backing singers. They're all dressed in the same costume. They're always uniformly they've got the sort of the visors on, which has become a bit of a trademark now. And I just love the sort of the indifferent nonchalance of them. They're always there, just kind of completely unreactive to everything that's going on. And I don't know, I quite like that. I wouldn't be surprised if she turns up and does something completely different each time. But Adrian, what was it that you posted to me today about her thesis?
Oh yes, Samantha Tina is Dr. Samantha Tina. I don't think it was a doctorate, but she did a diploma in, I don't know, whatever Samantha Tina did her diploma in, but she wrote her thesis for her diploma, which was a comparative study of Lithuania and Latvia in Eurovision. So she's an academic. She knows her stuff.
Dr. Eurovision.
Real, yeah.
Who have we talking about? Yeah, Finland. Big fan of the Finnish song, but I mean, nothing from the performance surprised me. But again, we get into our little bubble and we say, oh, it's like the national final performance. They've not done anything different. I still think if you're watching that for the first time, that's going to do quite well, because it is very different. I still have a sneaking suspicion Finland's going to get top 10 overall. I think it's easily going to qualify and get top 10 in the final. But it's hard to know what to say about it, because, you know, they did what that type of song needs. There was some guitar flinging, a bit of hair flicking, kind of big red backdrops, red middle fingers, which was interesting. But yeah, it was doing what it says on the tin, doing it well, but not probably doing anything unexpected.
Yeah, I'm not in any way a rock person, really. But the main thing I did like from at one point, the male blonde singer did this amazing hair flick, and it was very, you know, Schlager diva, except singing a rock song. And like it was the kind of thing Charlotte Pirelli could never do. She'd get whiplash.
Yeah, yeah. I think I do agree with someone. James said it's a bit outdated and sounds a bit like Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, and that's exactly what I think it sounds a bit like. But you know, that might appeal to a certain amount of people as well. I do think it will qualify, but I think it might falter a little bit in the final. But I think it stands up enough in the semi-final. But I think Italy does this rock thing a lot better in the final than Finland do.
I saw a lovely comment, actually, just prompted by Adrian's comment there, that somebody was saying on Twitter, you can tell the demographic of those commentating on it because they're calling it a hair flick, where in fact what they're actually doing is headbanging. I don't know enough about rock to be able to say how good an example this is of its genre. I can say whether I like something or not, and I don't especially like this, but what I wrote was it's as awful / joyful / chaotic / energetic / noisy / amazeballs as you would expect it to be from the Finnish final. So however you felt about it, of those adjectives in the Finnish final, you're going to feel exactly the same about it in the Eurovision semi-final. I think that maybe as far as it gets. I don't think it'll get to the final, but who knows?
Okay.
The one we've not talked about is Bulgaria. Now that seems to be doing very well with some people. I'm still not warming to it.
So Bulgaria,
from one rock to another.
So Bulgaria is a song which either you're going to love or you're going to hate. It's that kind of song that is very, very. It's very now, and there tends to be a lot of people that tend to like this. It generally tends to be a lot of the younger generation. So people I've seen online as teenagers and sort of young people that like Billie Eilish and that kind of stuff. I'm not saying the song is like Billie Eilish, but it is that kind of thing that appeals to certain people, and it might not appeal to a certain other demographic. But I have to say they have done really well with the staging. I'll let Monty explain the staging because he's a little bit better at describing how things go than me, but it is really quite impressive, I felt, with the actual staging. It's one of the best stages I felt myself personally of the whole entire semi-final.
Yeah, I did too as well. And it was only just shortly before that I saw a social media post by my friend, Dan Shipton, and I remembered he's actually one of the creative designers for it. He's actually with 7 delegations this year. So with Bulgaria, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Croatia, Austria, Estonia, and Spain. I remember him posting about helping do the live on tape recordings when several of them were in Bulgaria. He's also worked with Dua Lipa. He was the stage manager for Kate Bush, which when I met him I was like fawning because I'm an enormous Kate Bush fan. But he's also worked with Electro Velvet, so not everybody can be perfect. But I thought this was a really good concept. She is afloat on something, and there was varying views as to whether it was a rock or a satellite. For me, it looked like a big a big chunk of wood floating like a raft in the sea, and I got that from the projection on the floor. It seemed to be a seascape, but it is a bit sort of strangely shaped. It's a bit of flotsam, I guess we can call it, and there's a really nice effect of some sand pouring down, which I thought gave the impression of the sands of time and the passage of time, and with the theme of getting older. It's very, very gentle. She starts sitting, she delivers songs, she stands up and sort of moves around, and it spins around So she's essentially spinning on a big floater by the end of it. I just thought it looked really nice on stage. It's something which we haven't seen, very simple but quite novel and quite unique for Eurovision. And I thought this had been flying under the radar a little bit in terms of whether people thought it was going to win or not. And I thought she put herself back into contention today with this. I thought it was a really nicely delivered song.
She's definitely got a kind of a 2020, 2021 aesthetic, kind of delivering her song in her pajamas. Yeah, it didn't quite do as much for me. I liked it, but I didn't quite get that they were the sands of time. But now you say it, I think it is. I thought it was kind of, I don't know, a waterfall or something, some kind of golden liquid falling or something. I didn't quite understand that. But it definitely, I think, sells the performance, sells the song rather well.
She has overtaken, just checking the odds, she has just overtaken Iceland in the odds, and she's about to overtake Italy, so she's almost going to be fourth in the betting, and that's from, I think that's from 6 earlier on this morning. So she's the only one that's really done much movement today. But that could say something.
Did anyone catch Georgia? Because I think there were some technical problems. I struggled to get in.
I didn't get to see Georgia at all, unfortunately. No, I did see the last 30 seconds of the song of his last rehearsal, where apparently his last rehearsal he didn't even sing the song. He was just mumbling random notes throughout the whole song. I don't know why he would do that. Maybe he just feels like he's so he knows the song inside out, and that he doesn't need to do that. So that's quite funny to see first thing in the morning.
I saw both of the runs through, and the first one I saw, which I think was the second one in the arena, he did sing, and he sounded in fine voice. I think in the third one, I don't know whether he was just blocking or whether he was just kind of sort of, so casual. I remember Lisa Angel from France in 2015, when she turned up for her first rehearsal, where they get half an hour and they often get to go through it 4 times in that. She came on, banged through it twice, absolutely note perfect every time. And then she went, that's it, don't need the rest of the time. And I didn't know whether, there was something of that in it, or whether he was just sort of playing up, to amuse himself. But I thought, his vocal was fine in the run through he did properly. Somebody popped in the chat about polishing a turd, and I think that at Eurovision we do sometimes say you can polish it or you can roll it in glitter. I think he's opting to neither polish nor glitter this, and although I think the song has some very nice moments, and Tornika certainly served the best beard of the day, which was very pleasing for me. I just don't think there's enough of this. I think it's a very gentle song. There is something of when he starts, you are drawn in because you're not quite expecting it, and you're kind of, oh, hang on, what's going on here? But it doesn't really sustain the attention. What I did like is there's a backdrop at one point which says the English lyric with the Georgian translation. So you get to see the beauty of the Georgian alphabet, which is an absolutely gorgeous piece of alphabet. But then there's projections in English over him, and they just don't sit right. They're obviously over the contours of his body. They're not, it just looks very, very odd. So I think this is a little bit doomed, although it does contrast very well with Serbia, which, although we heard yesterday, will come directly before him on the night. It's a big change of pace. So if people respond to that, there's a chance for him to go through. I wouldn't write him off completely, but I think he's got a bit of a mountain to climb if he wants to qualify, really.
Yeah,
so I hadn't realised that just in the last couple of minutes, Hassan has snuck into the room there.
Yes.
I'm conscious we've hit half an hour, but Hass, do you want to sum up for you what were the highs and lows of today in Rotterdam?
Well, yes, sorry for coming late. Unfortunately, I missed one of my favourite songs, Finland, today, so I have no idea how they did. But I was really, really impressed by Bulgaria, and I think that the little waterfall that she puts her hand through, I think that might be maybe moon dust, because, it's all the moon, whatever, and stuff, who knows, And obviously, Switzerland was pitch perfect. And Denmark is not one of my favourites, but it's really good fun, And I think that's a great one to end on, really.
Yeah.
You know, I was impressed by Portugal. Albania, very strong. I only saw part of Georgia. He was just mumbling along, really. Latvia, yeah, I mean, you know, she gave a good performance. But overall, it's going to be a tough one to decide who to put through.
Well, actually, I'm looking at the odds again, and there's 10 clear favourites from the odds, and then there's a big, massive gap with the last 7. So the 10 favourites are Switzerland, Bulgaria, Iceland, Finland, Greece, San Marino, Moldova, Serbia, Portugal, and Albania. Then there's a big, massive gap: Austria, Denmark, Estonia, Latvia, Czech Republic, Georgia, and Poland. Whether that's going to be correct or not, it sounds about roughly there for me. There could be a couple at the bottom there and there, but I think that's roughly what I would expect to qualify myself.
Yeah, I think Austria and or Denmark will make it through. I think based their performances were different enough to get through. But yeah, I think your Latvias, probably your Georgias, yeah, those ones that are not going to be making it through. But tomorrow, gosh, we've got 15, I think, to go through tomorrow. It's a long day.
It's only 20 minutes now. They're on to the second rehearsals tomorrow now, so it goes down to 20 minutes. So they might, I think we get to see the first one this time, so we might get 2 or 3 run-throughs again, because I think it's only the first one of the first rehearsal we don't get to see. So, but by now things should have tightened up a little bit. We should get a little bit of a better understanding of how things are going. Will we see any changes? We might do. We'll probably talk more about what's changed rather than what stayed the same for tomorrow's rehearsals, I would think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So it's everything apart from Malta, is that right, from the first semi?
Yeah, it seemed, I guess that's just the way the numbers have totted up, but it seemed to do all of the first semi-final bar one song seems slightly odd, but I guess there was probably a limit how many they could fit in on the one day.
James has just popped in the chat. We get the big 6 tomorrow. No, it's on Thursday. We get the big 6.
Yeah, it's Thursday. Yeah. So when we do our 6 o'clock chat on Thursday, we'll be 15 minutes after hearing James's rehearsal. So it'll be fresh in the mind to hear how he's done.
Yeah, and I've just realised actually that Spain is on. It doesn't finish to 6:25, so we might have to push call back to 6:30 on.
Yeah,
Thursday.
the same tomorrow as well. I think the last one is.
No, the last one tomorrow is at 4:35 UK time, so we should be okay.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's just Thursday. We'll have to change that, I think, to 6:30. But Alasdair will keep everyone updated on the Facebook group.
Cool. Well, we can probably wrap up there. Thanks everyone for joining us for our little chat. It's been nice to see you again. Thanks, Monty, for joining us. It's been good to hear your views. We're loving your blog. It's been good. And we'll be back tomorrow at 6 for Day 5, second run of the first semi-finals rehearsals. I hope they've all been paying attention to our very insightful comments, and they're going to make lots of changes because of it. And have a nice evening. And I will stop the recording now.